Okay, let's look at our next few problems here. Cosine x plus 1 equals 0. Basically, how would you solve if I had n plus 1 equals 0? What would you do? You would minus 1 from each side to get n would equal negative 1. I'm going to do the same thing kind of, except we're going to keep it, instead of being n minus 1, I'm just going to minus 1 from each side here, so that cosine x equals negative 1. And then I can go to my unit circle, and where does cosine x equals negative 1? Well, don't forget on the unit circle, we're talking about the x values, we're at the 90-degree marks. This is the point 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. So think about this here. Cosine is the x value. So this occurs at, and straight across that is at pi. So the only answer to this particular one is pi. Now this one here is actually two problems. Remember how if this whole parentheses is equal to 0, 0 times that's going to make 0. Or if this parentheses is 0, 0 times that will make 0. So what we're basically going to have is this. 2 cosine x minus 1 equals 0. Or we'll have 2 cosine x plus the square root of 3 equals 0. Let's just start with this side right here. If I was solving an equation, wouldn't you add 1 to each side? So 2 cosine x would equal 1. And then I would divide each side by 2. So cosine x equals 1/2. And if you go to your nice unit circle, we're talking about cosine x, we're talking about the x value being 1/2. I know that's going to occur right here at the pi over 3 mark. That's the 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. And because we're talking about positive 1/2, it's also going to occur down here at 5 pi over 3, which is the point 1/2 negative square root of 3 over 2. So we know then that part of this answer is pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. But that only takes care of half the answer. I have to come over here, minus the square root of 3 from each side. So I get 2 cosine x equals negative square root of 3. And then just like before, divide each side of these by 2. So where does cosine x equal negative square root of 3 over 2? Well, that's going to occur on the unit circle right over here. This is 5 pi over 6, which is at the point negative square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. And it will also occur here at 7 pi over 6, negative square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. Both cases, the x is negative square root of 3 over 2. So we have pi over 3, 5 pi over 3, not 5 pi over 3, sorry. That was wrong. It's not 5 pi over 3. Yes, it was 5 pi over 3, way down here. And we also have it at 5 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. Okay, those would be our two particular answers for it. And then to solve this equation right here, well, it's just kind of like this one right here. Minus 1 from each side for the sign. So 2 sine x equals negative 1 divided by 2. Where does sine x equals negative 1/2? Well, first off, there's 1 right here. So we just strip here this other part, because that's the y value. The sine is y. So if I have negative 1/2 here, the other one's going to be right there, which will occur at the point, that point is square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. This is 11 pi over 6. So the answer to this one is 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. And those would be our answers for finding those particular ones right there for solving that equation.